In 2005, a quiet American town was rocked by a terrible event. The young girl disappeared from her home, leaving her belongings, phone and car. Over time, the investigation of this case began to resemble a typical detective series, with only one difference. All this happened in real life. The small town was plunged into an atmosphere of fear and mistrust, as the disappearance of the girl could have involved any of the residents. It takes 12 years for the whole world to learn the terrible truth. Friends, before you start browsing, I'd like to ask you to like this video, subscribe to the channel and click on the bell. This will help greatly in the development of the channel, so we can make more quality content for you. Tara Greenstead was born in 1974 in Hawkinsville, USA. During her school years, she actively participated in beauty pageants, winning prizes. From an early age, the girl set herself the goal of getting a quality education, so she saved money earned at competitions for tuition. After college, Tara earned her master's degree in education and took the job she had always dreamed of. She became a high school history teacher in Ocilla, Georgia. This tiny city represented a typical low-rise America. Its population did not exceed 4,000 people. Most of them knew each other well. Life there was quiet and measured. None of the locals could have imagined that some serious crime could happen in Ocilla. Tara Greenstead worked at the local school for several years, and during this time she has developed excellent relations with both the team and students. She was a kind and sociable person who could always support and help. In October 2005, this assistance was very helpful to Tara's students who were preparing to participate in a local beauty pageant. Given the fact that their teacher repeatedly won prizes at such events, the girls were delighted with her support. On Saturday, 22 October, Tara helped her with the final touches before the competition. After that, she went on a picnic with her school friends and did not return home until 11:00 p.m., parking her car outside under the shed. Since then, Tara has stopped communicating. Her mother, who lives in another city, was the most concerned. The daughter always picked up the phone or called back, but this time she never got back. On Monday, October 24, the anxiety reached its peak. Tara didn't show up for work, which was very unusual for her. The girl took her job seriously and would have warned her superiors that she needed time off. Tara's troubled acquaintances called Chief Billy Hancock to see if she was okay. At 10 a.m., he went to her address. The policeman thought that the woman's phone had just died and she either got sick or simply overslept. When he arrived at her house, he found Tara's car in its usual spot. Her doors were unlocked, but Billy was not surprised. In such a small town, the residents were absolutely not worried that their cars could be stolen. After that, he noticed that on the dashboard there was an envelope with $100 in cash. It was already strange how a responsible man like Tara could leave the money in plain sight. Billy knocked on the door, but no one opened it for him. After that, he decided to inspect the house. At first glance, everything was completely ordinary, no signs of a struggle or a break-in. But in Tara's bedroom, the detectives discovered a real mess, completely unlike a woman. Her belongings were lying on the floor, including clothes in which she was last seen. Her mobile phone was on the bedside table for charging. It was as if Tara had left the house for a while, but she was nowhere to be found. On the ground near the house, the police discovered the first piece of evidence that led them to suspect a possible crime. There was a latex glove lying around that someone might have used to hide fingerprints. The detectives did not consider the possibility that the glove might have belonged to Tara herself. Practically no one used such a glove at home. Since then, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, an analog of the FBI, has joined the case at the level of only one state. The main version of the investigation has become kidnapping. There was very little evidence. In addition to the glove, the detectives discovered only two questionable moments. The broken packaging chain lay on the bedroom floor and her alarm clock was out of place. But all this did not help the detectives to solve the mystery of her disappearance. For a small town, this Monday was truly terrible. The house was cordoned off and a meeting was held at the school. Tara's colleagues and students tried their best to help with the search by forming a group of volunteers. they printed a stack of flyers with a picture of the woman and information about her disappearance. And in the next few hours, these papers were pasted all over the city. On that day, the volunteers did not go home until 1A Muro of investigation agents canvassed Tara's neighbors and examined the area in which she lived. The search involved sniffer dogs brought in hoping to pick up the trail of the missing. The investigators were left with the hope that Tara had simply walked away and the dogs would find her easily. At the same time, the latex glove was given to experts whose aim was to collect as much data as possible. They were able to take a DNA sample, but no matches could be found in the FBI. All they knew was that the sample belonged to a man. Alas, all this has brought no results. Tara seems to have vanished from her own home. The investigators then began digging into Tara's personal life and past. It often happens that the disappearance of a woman is the fault of someone from her close circle. After examining the men Tara was involved with, the detectives were unable to identify any suspect. She had the longest relationship with Marcus Harper, a former police officer and military officer. The couple separated at Tara's initiative about a year before her disappearance. The reason was that the woman wanted to build a family, and Marcus wasn't ready for that. After the breakup, they maintained friendly relations, called and corresponded. Later, detectives discovered one interesting detail. Marcus came to Asilla 3 weeks before Tara disappeared, but he did not tell her. After learning of Marcus's arrival from mutual acquaintances, the woman was very upset. She called him repeatedly to find out why he had not informed her of his arrival. Soon, Tara's fortunes turned into a real tantrum, and her home walls were struggling, even wondering if Tara was going to do something reckless. However, she soon recovered, and the police did not consider Marcus a suspect. The couple was long in the month, but their relationship ended, and the detectives could not find motives for the crime. Soon, they were waiting for an interesting turn. The police learned that Tara had been threatened by her former student. On 30 March 2005, 7 months before the girl's disappearance, he went to her house and was extremely aggressive when Tara refused to let him in. The guy started banging on the door, and the neighbors had to call the police. It turned out that the young man had been in love with the teacher since high school. According to her acquaintances, the former student was emotionally unstable, acting strangely and even intimidating. For a while, Tara tried to help him sort out his problems, but his mental state only worsened. After that incident, when the young man tried to break into her house, the woman filed a complaint against him. She seriously feared that he might harm her. After Tara's disappearance, the police tracked down the young man, who was working in a nearby town 150 kilometers from Osilla. The guy gave the detectives an alibi the night his former teacher disappeared. His involvement in the case was not possible. The woman also found a police officer's card in the house. It turned out that Tara had been seeing him for some time, but at the time of her disappearance, he was already living in another city. The policeman also provided an alibi for the night of Tara's disappearance. The list of possible suspects is virtually over. Having no leads, the police decide to organize a search for the girl 2 weeks after the disappearance. It was strange to make such a belated decision, because from the first minute, it was clear that Tara had left the house of her own free will. Hundreds of volunteers searched the area. The volunteers toured the woods, explored ditches and rivers, but they could not find a single trace of Tara. During the search, it was reported that a house and a car had burned down near the container house. There was almost unanimous agreement among local residents that the incident had something to do with the disappearance of a woman. Maybe the perp was trying to cover his tracks, or maybe people were so shocked and scared that they were suspicious of every event. In any case, the search yielded no results, and the police faced a grim reality. They simply had no leads left. The next few years did not bring the police any closer to solving this mystery. It was not until 2009 that an event brought renewed attention to the disappearance of Tara Greenstead. A user created a YouTube channel and posted a really scary video. A man was sitting in the frame. His face was smeared and his voice was changed. In the video, he said that he was involved in the disappearance of 16 girls by name. Among them was Tara Greenstead. The unsub added that he had safely hidden the bodies, and in the new video will give clues about the burial site. The police immediately checked the clip and found out that all 16 names do belong to missing women. The FBI was able to track down the author of this clip fairly quickly. Andrew Haley, 27, was involved. After his arrest, he stated that he had just decided to make a joke. The police failed to link Andrew to any of the 16 missing girls, but he still failed to avoid trial. For perjury and falsification of evidence, the man was sentenced to 2 years of hard labor and a probation period of 13 years. The fleeting hopes of solving this cold case have faded. Once again, the police are left without a single clue. In December 2010, Tara Greenstead was officially confirmed dead as there was simply nothing to work with. Years passed, but the people of Osceola remembered well the disappearance of Tara Greenstead. They remembered, but discussed less. The talk about Tara remained behind closed doors only. This topic hardly ever came up in everyday life. The city changed forever. Fear and mistrust permeated the locals for years to come. Only in 2016 did something happen that made people again talk about Tara openly. Payne Lindsay from Atlanta created a podcast dedicated to mysterious cases, and for the first issue, he took up the case of Tara Greenstead. The man and his colleague came to Osceola, where he met private detective Morris Godwin. Together, they started working this case from scratch. They had no access to police documents, so the only available source of information was the city's resident. Initially, they were able to communicate only with Tara's friends and relatives. Strangers avoided talking about the missing girl, but this did not last long. With his enthusiasm, Lindsay was able to revive interest in the case. And soon the residents of Osceola began to discuss it again. Lindsay and Morris have worked out every possible lead. They were considering 3 possible suspects: Tara's ex-boyfriends and a student who tried to break into her house. Along the way, they communicated with anyone who might have had any useful information. They were so passionate about the case that several times it seemed to them that the answer was literally one step away from them. One day, Lindsay received a call in which an unidentified man offered to search for the remains on Tara's property. The police did so. At some point, they managed to find bones. However, experts quickly established that these bones belonged to an animal. Despite the excitement and new interest in the case, no major breakthrough has taken place. Rather, they failed to solve the case directly during the creation of the podcast. But it was this amateur investigation that could be decisive in the long-awaited outcome. The denouement was made completely unexpectedly. In early 2017, Brooke Sheridan joined the police, and her story shocked detectives who no longer believed the truth would ever come out. Brooke told investigators that her ex-boyfriend, Bo Dukes, once confessed to her. He helped his friend dispose of Tara Greenstead's body. After learning this, the girl repeatedly begged the boy to confess, but he remained silent. After hearing Brooke's story, the police took their time. Who knows, maybe this woman just wanted fame and attention, especially when a successful podcast made everyone talk about this case again. The detectives decided to act with certainty. They asked Brooke to wear a wire and go to Dukes to get a confession. It worked. The man did not deny his involvement, and the police had reason to arrest him. Surprisingly, Dukes immediately began cooperating with the investigation and laid all the cards on the table. Later, the detectives will say he's just tired of living with the weight on his soul. Late that night, he got a call from a friend and former classmate Ryan Duke, who asked to borrow a truck and help with something, after which he added, "I broke into Tara Greenstead's house to steal some money, but something went wrong and I killed her." According to Ryan, after a party with friends, he went for a drive, at which point he decided to break into someone's house and steal money. And his choice fell on Tara's house. At the time, he was under the influence of illegal substances. Opening the door with a credit card, he broke into the house and started looking for money. Tara noticed him. There was a struggle between them, from which only Ryan came out alive. When Dukes arrived in a truck at Tara's house, they loaded the woman's body into it and took her to the woods. The two then disposed of the body for several days. This story shocked the residents of Osilla. Jukes and Duke were never considered suspects because they had no motive. There was no clue that connected these two to the woman's disappearance. Despite Beau Duke's full confession, he did not testify against himself in court. During the trial, he spoke to Tara's relatives, cried and apologized for his actions. Duke spent a long time in the army, was a veteran, and had many awards. But the court issued its decision, 25 years in prison, for helping cover up the crime. In the case of Ryan Duke, his trial has been delayed to this day, 4 years after his arrest. This is largely facilitated by lawyers using various loopholes to delay the inevitable. There is no doubt that Ryan is in prison, but when the trial reaches its final verdict is uncertain. Now that the truth about this high-profile case has come out, Tara Greenstead's friends and family have been relieved of the uncertainty. Her mother confessed to secretly hoping for a miracle that her daughter would return to her alive. Alas, the reality was cruel, senseless, and devoid of miracles. At least now, the whole world knows exactly what happened in that little town back in 2005.